All right. Good evening. My name is Rob Cagnetta, and this is a meeting of the South Kingstown, Rhode Island Zoning Board of Review. Members present tonight are Thomas Daniels, our Vice Chairman, William Rosen, Arlene Hicks, and alternates Jeff Elia, Brian DuPont, and William McDonald. Also present tonight are Amy Goins, the South Kingstown Special Legal Counsel, Jamie Gorman, the South Kingstown Building and Zoning Official, and Jessica Spence, the Administrative Support Associate. The board is made up of 8 people with 5 regular voting members. A minimum of 4 members must be present to vote. In the event that regular members are absent or recused, an alternate will step in. No more than 5 members are entitled to a vote, and at least 3 voting members are needed to grant requested relief. Tonight, the voting members will be myself, Mr. Daniels, Ms. Hicks, Mr. Rosen, and Mr. Elia. Applicants are either here for a dimensional or a use variance or a special use permit. This board is a quasi-judicial body created by South Kingstown Ordinance pursuant to state statutes. We don't follow strict rules of evidence, and we operate in what we believe to be in a fair and equitable manner. We try to let everyone speak unless you get carried away or it's deemed not relevant. So in the interest of time, just try to be brief and on point. We do our best not to argue and keep things civil, and we try to hear our last petition before 10 o'clock. After we introduce your petition, please step up to the microphone. Adjusting the microphone is necessary, but make sure it's on and make sure you speak into it. We're going to do our best to make sure whoever's talking has their mic on. Otherwise, over here, we'll turn our mics off just for feedback. That tends to happen. So clearly state and spell your name for the record. You will then be asked to take an oath to tell the truth. After that, you can present your petition with any witnesses to testify in support of the application. The board will then ask you and your witnesses questions. After the petitioner has presented their testimony, anyone with questions in support of or opposition to the petition can step up to the microphone. You will identify yourself, be sworn in, and present your testimony with follow-up questions from the board. Please do not direct any questions or comments to the petitioner or any other witnesses. The board will direct the questions to the petitioner or any other witnesses after the comment period. And then after hearing all the testimony, board members will discuss the application and the evidence presented. We're going to ask a lot of questions, and there's a good reason. We cannot grant anything we choose. There are rules to follow per our South Kingstown ordinance. So you must give testimony to support certain facts that allow the request to be approved. For dimensional variances and special uses, for a dimensional variance, you must present the evidence that your hardship is due to the unique characteristics of the subject land or the structure and is not due to the general characteristic of the surrounding area. That your hardship is not the result of any prior action on your part, and that granting that the variance will not alter the general character of the surrounding area, and that your hardship by the denial of the variance will amount to more than a mere inconvenience. So that means that the relief sought is minimal for the reasonable enjoyment of the permitted use of the property that you're asking it for the variance to be for. For a special use permit, you must present evidence that the request is specifically authorized by the zoning ordinance. So somewhere in the ordinance it has to be authorized. It has to say it in the ordinance, or we don't have the power to grant it. That your request meets all the criteria in the zoning ordinance that authorizes that use, and that the request will not alter the general characteristics of the surrounding area, nor will it impair the purpose or intent of the zoning ordinance. So tonight we have 3 items on the agenda, and I know there were requests for continuances, but I feel that we still kind of want to work through these in order, because I think there are folks here that might want to comment on those. So, is that okay? Okay, good. All right, so first we have the continuation for the petition of James and Margaret Salgado for 4060 Tower Hill Road, Wakefield, Rhode Island, for an appeal of the zoning decision of the zoning enforcement officer. Under the zoning ordinance as follows, the applicant is seeking to appeal the notice of violation issued by the zoning enforcement officer dated December 26, 2023, for the premises located at 4060 Tower Hill Road. The owners of the property are James and Margaret Salgado, for the premises located at 4060 Tower Hill Road, South Kingston. Assessors map 34-3, lot 2, and is zoned R80. And if it's a continuation, do I need to still read in all of the documents?
You can ask the attorney.
Okay. Okay, so good evening.
Good evening, members of the board. Tyler Miller, on behalf of attorney Michael Riley, who couldn't be here today. He did speak to you back in March. On behalf of the petitioners, James and Margaret Salgado. As you may recall, this was before the board on an appeal of the zoning official's decision to issue certain violations to the Salgados. At that date, this board voted to put a stay on any decision to that appeal and allow the petitioners to submit an application for both special use permits as well as dimensional variances.
Right.
It's my understanding that Mr. Riley has been in certain talks with Mr. Gorman regarding some issues getting some of the requirements for those applications, mainly a site plan stamped by an architect. Is that correct?
Yesterday, I spoke with, or I corresponded by email with Attorney Riley in the required documents for the filing submission, and did notify him that we would require a seal on the site plan to make sure it's prepared by a design professional.
So as a result of that, we are requesting a continuance and a further stay on any decision as to that appeal until July in order to give the petitioners time to get that stamped plan. There was some backup. Attorney Riley was having a little bit of difficulty finding somebody who could get it done in the time frame. It's my understanding that that's the last thing he needs for that application. I just believe it has to be in by, is it Friday? In order to make June's meeting, which is why it's a pretty tight timeline for him. So we are requesting for that July continuance. I would also request that if the board does decide to issue its decision today on that appeal, that you do allow the petitioner to say some words. I don't believe she spoke at the last hearing, and there is some stuff she'd like to put on the record and let the board know. But that's only if the board is going to issue its decision today.
Okay, but the intent was, when we last talked about this, was 2 months ago, I believe, right? Or was
Correct.
it 3?
It was March.
It was March. Was in that time to sort of submit the proper paperwork for special use.
That is correct.
But they only reached out today?
I think the board should be aware, I think the board should be aware Attorney Riley welcomed a new child recently. I don't know exactly when, but I think we were informed of that maybe a week or so ago. I think that was after the board's hearing in March. I just mentioned that as a potential reason for any delay on the part of the attorney, not to mention issues with design professionals being backed up.
I do appreciate that, and that is correct. Roughly about halfway between the time we last met and today, Attorney Riley did welcome in a new child, his 4th, by the way.
Wow. Well, he should be able to do that in his sleep then. It's no. I mean, it is something we'd like to have resolved. I know to make sure that we're moving forward with this, because there are letters we're getting from neighbors and so forth that we want to make sure that everybody's heard, and it's not pushed aside for too long. So we could basically, they're asking for a month extension on this?
They're asking that it be continued to the July meeting. The board could certainly grant that continuation request and indicate it's going to be the last continuation request that will be entertained.
So is it the email or that we'll use as the request, or you're requesting it?
I would say I'm requesting it. I mean, we
Okay.
can certainly back that up with the email that Attorney Riley did send.
Okay, so, and what's the date of the next meeting, or the meeting you're requesting?
July 17th.
July 17th, okay. Board members, any questions for the attorney on this matter? No? Is there anyone out here for that petition, out in the audience for this? You guys are? If we hold it off to July 17th, no one else will be notified, right? There's only a notification that's listed on the website, and potentially in the paper, or not even in the paper?
It wouldn't be re-advertised because we're continuing it to a date certain.
Okay, so the only way people would know that it's being continued is if they see it on the website?
Or review the agenda of the, or review the board's agenda, or reach out to Jess or Jamie.
Okay, and we obviously will hang on to all the correspondences to date. So, I mean, I can ask if people are only here tonight and they want to be heard on this, because we're assuming.
I'm sorry, let me, and I wasn't at the meeting in March when Attorney Squires, I think it was his suggestion that now state law allows for an application to be submitted that requires a special use permit and a dimensional variance. I believe the idea was have the board consider the new application. That would be noticed. It hasn't been filed yet, so the neighbors won't get additional notice of the appeal hearing, but they would get notice
Of an application.
of the actual application.
Okay, so, do I open it up to folk, I mean, because they will have an opportunity based on the application, because at this point, there's really nothing to speak on relative to the
Right. I think the idea is if the town has issued a notice of violation that the property owner filed an appeal, one potential remedy for them is to get the relief that they need in order to continue to do what they're doing. And the board can consider that request along with all the correspondence that's been submitted in connection with the appeal, which I think would apply equally to the new application.
So we can reuse these correspondences, you're saying, or use them in the application?
Yeah,
As concerns?
Yes.
Okay. Is that okay?
That's completely okay,
That
yes, and what
explanation.
we envisioned.
Okay. And so for folks out there, just so you know, this will be advertised as a new special use and any dimensional variance that they're going to request of the town. And potentially it would end up resolving your notice from the zoning official.
We had a situation several years ago where there was, I believe, a notice of violation where the recipient filed an application for relief. If the board grants that application, the appeal is moot. If the board denies the application, then we go to the next item on the agenda, which is the appeal itself.
So by the next meeting, what do we do with this if they filed, if in 2 months, but they
Yeah.
file by then, what do we do with this?
You
Do we-
list the new application on the agenda before going to the merits of the appeal,
Okay, and then we can address the appeal after the
if necessary.
application?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions on that? Just make sure it's, thank you. All right, so is everybody out there, you good with that? All right. So you're requesting a continuation until the, what was it, the 17th?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Attorney Tyler, excuse me, just so you're aware, the application deadline is June 14th.
Thank you for that.
Okay. So, someone want to make a motion to continue this matter until July 17th, 2024? I'll make that motion. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Daniels. All in favor? Aye? Aye. All right. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next, we're going to hear the petition of Kim and Brent Jones of 350 Ministerial Road, Wakefield, Rhode Island, 02879, for a dimensional variance under the zoning ordinance as follows. The applicant is seeking to demolish a detached garage and construct a new 22-foot by 42-foot attached garage on the east side of the dwelling. The garage will be located 1.7 feet from the property line. The required yard setback is 10 feet. Therefore, an 8.3-foot relief is requested. The lot size is .26 acres. It's a dimensional variance required per the zoning ordinance, section 401, schedule of dimensional regulations, and 907 are standards of relief. The owner of the property is Jones Family Irrevocable Trust for premises located at 78 Lake Street, South Kingstown, Assessors Map 57-4, Lot 17, and is zoned R10. So for this petition, we have the application signed and dated April 4th, 2024. The owner authorization form signed and notarized April 1st, 2024. Front, south, and west elevations. Plan of land prepared by Edward J. O'Brien, PLS, stamped and dated April 4th, 2024. 200-foot radius map, legal notice, and notarized affidavit of mailing. Good evening.
Good evening. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to see you. And you are?
I'm Kim Jones, owner of the property.
Okay, Ms. Jones. Could you spell your name for us?
Kimjones.
And do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, so tell us what you want to do.
Well, we bought this property in November, and we've been waiting 2 years to find something in downtown Wakefield that we could, buy and enjoy. And it wasn't exactly what we planned on, but it's a bit of a fixer-upper. So we have been fixing up the house, and as time went on, we thought, really, we need to do the garage also. So our plan is to take the existing garage that's very small, kind of built back in the day when people didn't have 2 cars, a lot of toys, lawnmowers, all that kind of stuff. And we'd like to demolish that and put up a new garage that's attached to the house. And with that, we're going to follow the same be on the same footprint of the existing garage, but come forward a bit and back a bit. Okay. And, our goal is to make it look nicer on the property, fit in with the whole neighborhood, and really be like an improvement for the neighborhood. I think so far a lot of the neighbors have been excited about the fact that we're, fixing up the house and re-siding, putting in some improvements.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. And it's pretty much the same distance from the property line as it is now?
Yes.
And same height as it is now?
No, it would be taller.
Taller? How much taller?
I believe on the application it says 25 feet, and I don't know what the existing height is.
Is it just a one-story right now?
It's 1 story now with a loft.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And it's going to now be connected to the house?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
I can't think of anything else unless you have questions.
We'll ask
Okay.
questions.
Okay.
Anyone on the board have questions? All right, Mr. Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. It looks to me like you have 1.3 feet, 1.7 feet on the side yard setback. How are you going to deal with construction on that side with that small space without going into the neighbor's property? Have you talked to the neighbor, or how are you going to deal with that?
That's a good question. I'm assuming that we'll go from the front and rear, and there is quite a bit of a hedge there that I don't see a hedge on that side. We have not addressed that, but I think that we could very easily just approach it from the front and from the rear. And, take care to make sure that we don't go and disturb the adjoining person's property.
Well, you still have to deal with the siding.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of room in the rear of the property, in the front of the property to put all the siding, like to store that, and, oh, you mean just attaching the siding?
Yeah. Construction-wise.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't envision a contractor working on 1.7 feet trying to put up siding.
yeah,
So I think that's something you might want to consider with your neighbor, because
Right.
you could be into a situation where the contractor goes on to the neighboring property and you've got yourself an issue.
right, yeah. That's a good point, thank you.
Is there a physical barrier or any trees or anything that define the property line in between you and the neighbors? Or is it just kind of open?
It's open, you can see all that plantings right next to the garage, it's just like the little small ajuga or whatever, and there's no trees. I mean, I think the neighbors seem pretty nice, everybody in the neighborhood's pretty friendly. I don't picture it being a huge problem, but I'm happy to, you know, make sure that there's something in writing that we will replant anything that gets disturbed, and to make sure that, you know, we make them happy when the construction's all over.
So, and then how about the 22 feet wide? So was that just because that's what it was, or is that sort of the minimum?
Right now, it's 18 feet wide, but to attach it to the house, we'd keep that side property, the side setback, and we'd move it towards the house. So that's 4 feet. So we'd go from 18 to 22 feet wide.
Right, and is 22 make it a two-car? Is that the difference?
Barely.
Barely?
Barely, yeah.
Because as Mr. Daniels points out, that it is very difficult to sort of maintain sort of just a single property, maintain sort of the work site just on your property.
Right.
Just because it's on a slab, I'm sure it's not a basement, right?
Right.
So they're going to have to dig, and they're going to have to do things that might disturb sort of the adjoining site. So, you know, you'll certainly have to work that out with them just to make sure that, you know, because it's not so much a building department issue per se, or is it in terms of, does it be, so let's say somebody wanted to be difficult about it.
Well, we'd be the first place they come to. So, I mean, I think it should be brought up too that the method of construction for that wall, because of the proximity to the property line, would have to be fire rated, likely would be limited
Yeah.
on the openings to it. But if the board, you know, wasn't sure, but is, you know, if there's a favorable motion, could condition it upon receiving a letter authorizing construction access, you know, in conjunction with the building permit, perhaps.
And that's not uncommon to get it from an from a neighbor for the building department to have.
We don't see too many that are this close to the property line. I can think of maybe a few, and I think they usually work it out before they come to the board. It doesn't sound like there's been a conversation yet, but
No, I mean, I've met the neighbor, but to tell you quite honestly, it did not occur to me. You know, I just felt like we're doing such an improvement to the property that they'd probably be happy about that. So it didn't occur to me that they wouldn't, I guess.
So are you okay receiving authorization as a condition of this approval? Would mean that you'd have to have written permission by the neighbor submitted to the building inspector? No? Or is that not?
The board could certainly impose that condition. It's reasonable, but just be aware that's a burden on the building official to enforce. You could also, if the board thinks the request for relief is appropriate, you could grant the request and then let the applicant work out any issues that may arise with the neighbor. That's up to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I might suggest that the applicant agree to continue the hearing, talk with the neighbor, get some clarification on this issue, and/or withdraw without prejudice.
To tell you quite frankly, it's very stressful because that takes a lot of time, and it puts our house on pause for doing the work on the interior and the exterior, so that would be like a whole nother month. And in my mind, I feel like it would be, it'd be difficult to have to take that long, because it would take that much longer for us to get the house constructed and to get into the house, and then it just delays construction so much. And it would, it's really stressful to go through the whole construction project and all that. So I would really prefer that, I'm happy to put in writing that we will do everything to make the property on our neighbor's side just like it is now. And I think that the neighbor seems fine. I really regret I didn't talk to her first, because that probably, now that I look at it, would have been the best thing to do. But I prefer to get, approval now with the condition that any kind of debris or anything that goes on her property, that we take care of.
Okay. Mr. Rosen?
Yeah, there's construction going on right now, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I was out there. There's plenty of people doing construction right there. There are cars all over the place. The property next door has a good deal of grass leading to your property that I saw. And frankly, with respect to the continuance, I would be against that tonight, because I think that they're already in the process of doing all of this stuff. They've been there for a number of years. Not a number of years, quite a bit of time, I assume, looking at the house as it is now. And the garage is going to be attached to the house and only moved in the direction towards the house. It's not attached now, right?
Right.
So it seems to me that this is a reasonable request, and I would be voting for the motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rosen. Ms. Hicks?
Okay. Ms. Jones, I've walked by your house several times with my dog, and I've watched the work that's being done on the outside. Will you be using the same contractor for the garage who's doing the other work? And is this something that if so, is this something the contractor has discussed with you? Because while, you may be renovating a house for the first time, or not often renovating houses, didn't it occur to your contractor that you're that close to the property line and there would have to be some kind of accommodation to work on that side of the garage? And then you mentioned working from the front and the back. How would you get construction equipment to the back?
I think there's ample room on the other side of the house.
Okay, well, I think
Yeah.
isn't the same as there
True.
is
Yeah.
ample
Yeah.
room. I mean, these are things that your contractor should have discussed with you prior to your coming here tonight. And I'm not faulting you for it, but I'm saying somebody with experience as a contractor should have thought of these things, in my opinion.
Well, I do believe that the contractor that's working on the house will be doing the garage.
Okay.
And I do say that we have had conversations with our neighbor in the past about the house. She's seen all the equipment there. So, we told her that we are, improving the property and improving the house. And she seemed, fine with it. I don't think that, I think I've gotten a lot of, good feedback from the neighbors about making that property nicer. So I guess it didn't occur to me. And with the contractor, I think I told him I felt comfortable taking care of the zoning variance. So I don't think that I fault him for, not having the foresight to say about the property line. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would just note, provided it's, the owner was home, but they would have been notified by the first-class mail, explaining that the relief was on that side, which would affect them.
Sure. No, I mean, yes, it seems like it's pretty obvious the proposed is where it is now. It just makes it, it makes it a challenge for you that to execute this relative to that distance if the person next door does not grant you that use, right? So it makes it more of a challenge for you to build it to this spec.
Correct.
right? So just know that that could be, because that can prevent you from finishing if someone says, don't touch my property.
Right.
Because it's extremely close.
Yes.
So it's not to say that the existing building wasn't that close. It's just doing the work is another thing that you will disturb the land around it. And typically, well, you want about 3 feet around the building to work on it. So it's not a lot of space.
Right. Okay.
So, all right. Any other comments related to this applicant? Questions? Mr. Dupont?
Yeah, I have a comment. I went by your house also, and if I were your neighbor, I'd be pleased with the work that you're doing. I think it's going to enhance the neighborhood. There's some beautiful homes in that area. One question I have, I think, is the height of the garage. Now, I'm only guessing, it looks to be maybe 18, 19 feet high, or somewhere in that area, maybe 17. I don't know, maybe Jamie might know, but it doesn't show on the plan that I have on the height. And you want to increase it to 25 feet. Is there a particular purpose why? What would you be using that extra space up there for? Would that be a man cave, so to speak, or will it be a guest room, or who knows?
Right now, we put 25 feet because we thought, let's go higher rather than lower, and we didn't really know all the, the picky details of how we're going to attach the garage to the house with getting, up the stairway to enter the side door. It's a little complicated, and we needed to get the variance before we could design the garage. So we went with higher rather than lower, and if you knew my husband, you'd know why we need a very big loft space up on top of the garage, just, to accommodate a lot of storage. And down the road, maybe we turn it into like, some sort of, extra room or something, but that would be way, way, way down the road. Yeah.
And Mr. Gorman, since it's attached to the house, what height can they go to? I mean, they don't have to ask for 27. They can go, 32 or something like that?
35 is the height. I would just say the area that they're seeking relief needs to conform substantially to what they submitted for a rendering.
Got it.
So this is, proportionately, I can't say maybe 10 to 12-foot wall. So if they were to build a 3-story, that really wouldn't conform. But it doesn't sound like that's their intent.
So do we need to specify a 1.5 story? Or what do you need from us to define this?
If it reflects or it's in line with the plans or the renderings that were submitted, even though there's no dimensions, I think it's, the existing condition with the existing house, with the orientation of the windows and heights, as long as it's similar to what's been presented to the board.
I mean, they do have a scale on it, technically. 1 inch equals 6 feet, right? So
5 feet on the one I'm looking at.
Oh, yeah, well, this here, meaning that they were designing it with a scale so if you can scale this to say this is exactly half where the soffit is.
Absolutely.
Okay, so as long as you're okay with that, because you'll need the verified dimensions, I would suggest verifying dimensions.
Yeah.
As you submit your plans. I'm sure he's going to require that anyhow, to have more detailed plans.
Okay.
But just make sure that you're sticking to these proportions.
Right.
Right.
Or smaller, correct?
Or smaller.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, and this is right. And so if for some reason that you feel you can't build that close, then you can make it 3 feet
Right. Okay.
from the property.
Yeah, we wanted to go bigger, and then always with the option of going smaller, as long as that's, good.
Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely, they can downsize it from if it's approved and they want to go further away from the property line and shorter in building height, they wouldn't have to come back to the board.
Okay. Okay, any other questions, board members? No? Anything else to add?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Jones. Anyone else out there want to speak in behalf? Aha, excellent. So come on up. Yeah, I don't care, whichever, opposed or for. So just spell your name for us, please.
So I'm Nicholas Bossy, Nicolasbossy. I'm one of the neighbors at 72 Lake Street.
And do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. And where are you relative to this property?
I am the neighbor on the adjacent.
Oh,
Yeah.
we've been
the
talking
adjacent
about you the whole time.
one. Well, she's been talking about my mother, actually.
Okay, well, here
Yeah.
you are. Excellent.
Yes.
So please tell us what you think of this.
We're fine with the proposed garage if it's no closer than the existing one. So, and we do appreciate the concern about damage to our side of the property. So an agreement in writing would be very helpful.
So that would have to be between the two of
Yes.
you, and the town wouldn't necessarily be
Right.
involved, nor would you necessarily have the building inspector to sort of call if they breach that. But I think it's definitely something you should make sure you have an agreement and that the right people look at it for you, just to make sure that your liability is appropriate and everyone's protected. But you don't have a problem with the 1.7 feet as long as it's the same as it is now?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still it would be the same distance.
And even though they're
Yeah.
going a little taller, it's
No
about
problem
another
with
half
that.
story or so? You okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's already pretty shady in that area, so.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Any questions of this witness? Thank you for answering our question, for being here. Okay. Anyone want to, or any more discussion on this? No? Someone want to make a motion? Mr. Rosen? You're so quick to say you would.
Yeah, okay. Don't have my reading glasses tonight.
Oh, someone else, I mean, if someone else wants to, no?
Yeah, I'll try Kevin's.
Oh, his glasses, not have Kevin do it. Okay, no,
Right.
that's cool.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the petition of Kim Jones, who appeared before the board tonight, along with Nicholas Socielli, was it? Did you catch the name?
Mr. Bossy.
Bossy?
Bossy, Mr.
Bossy. Oh, I wrote it down wrong, okay. Move approval of the petition and state that Kim Jones and Nicholas Boselli spoke before the board. No other things associated with my cheat notes here. The board finds that the hardship, and I'm going to take this slowly because it looks a little fuzzy, from which the applicant seeks relief is due to the unique characteristics of the subject land or structure and not the general characteristics of the surrounding area. And simply what's happening here is they're refurbishing a house which does need considerable repair and will make the character of the neighborhood look much, much better than it presently does. There's a lot of nice houses there, and this is the last one on that block, I believe, that is going to be refurbished in any regard and made to look a lot better. So I think this is going to definitely improve the neighborhood in the long run. The board finds that the hardship is not the result of any prior action of the applicant, and as a matter of fact, they'll be taking care of anything that was done to that house over the years and improving it considerably. The board finds that the granting of the required variance will not alter the general character of the surrounding area or impair the intent of the purpose of the zoning ordinance or the comprehensive plan, and is just going to make everything look a lot better in that neighborhood. It's a very, very nice neighborhood, I might add, and very, very close to town, within walking distance as expressed by Arlene. The board finds that the subject land or structure cannot yield any beneficial use if it is required to conform to the provisions of the zoning ordinance. It's not any, well, it's going to be a benefit to the neighborhood. That's simply the simplest way to say it. And thus I move approval of this petition.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr.
And
Rosen.
sorry for the poor
No,
reading.
fine. You're fine. Motion was made by Mr. Rosen. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Elia. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Rosen?
Aye.
Mr. Elia? Aye. Mr. Daniels? Aye. Ms. Hicks?
Aye.
Mr. Cagnetta? Aye. Motion passes. Good luck. Next, on the petition, we have the petition of James and Joan Marasco of 617 Smith Street, Providence, Rhode Island, 02908, for a dimensional variance under the zoning ordinance as follows. The applicant is seeking to demolish an existing dwelling and construct a new dwelling with attached garage located 0 feet from the east side property line. The required yard setback is 7.3, therefore 7.3 of relief is requested. The lot size is 0.33 acres. Dimensional variance is required per the zoning ordinance, section 205, single non-conforming recorded lots, and section 907 are standards of relief. Owners of the property are James T. and Joan M. Marasco for premises located at 65 Quagnut Drive, South Kingstown, Assessors Map 63-3, Lot 22, and is zoned R40. For this, we have the application and zoning narrative signed and dated March 20th, 2024. Owner authorization form signed and notarized March 20th of this year. Construction schematics SD1 through SD15 prepared by Nathaniel Carden, architect, and dated March 14th, 2024. Site plan showing proposed improvements of 1 page prepared by Priscilla Balsh and Associates and stamped, signed and dated by Jeffrey Balsh, PLS, March 21st. Continuation letter dated April 24th. By Attorney Stephen Serdot, continuation letter dated May 15th by Attorney Stephen Serdot, and then correspondence of Jeffrey C. and Karen A. Potter of 53 Quagnut Drive, a 200-foot abutters list, radius map, legal notices, and notarized affidavit of mailing. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Just make sure the red's on. Yep. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Stephen Serdot. Unfortunately, as my letter said at the last moment, one of our essential witnesses became unavailable, so we thought it prudent to not halfway do this application, but to do it all in one shot and make one full presentation. So I'm here tonight to request a continuance. I know that it's my understanding, I was just recently contacted by Attorney Lynch, who's behind me. It's my understanding he's going to be representing the Potters in this matter. And he has some scheduling issues with, is it the June meeting, Mike? So I defer to the board how you'd like to address that. But our request is to continue the matter so we can make a full and complete presentation at one hearing.
Absolutely. And which expert was it that you were not
One
available?
of our builders, our contractor was unavailable this evening,
Okay.
as well as the representative of the family was having some health issues as well.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think we should, I mean, since the attorney's here, I don't know if he wants to be heard tonight before and anyone else, just because I know we have continued this once, and I feel like that it still is open, so if we can certainly ask why they're here and how they like to contribute.
Good evening, Michael Lynch for Jeffrey and Karen Potter. I don't have an objection to the continuance that's been requested. My only concern is, as I relayed to Mr. Surdett when I spoke with him tonight, but I had contacted him earlier this week about whether or not he was going to proceed with his petition. He indicated he was, that I'm not going to be available on the June 26th date. I believe Ms. Goins indicated would be your next hearing because Juneteenth is a federal and state holiday.
Okay.
So that it would have to, because I am representing the Potters, I'd be looking for that to be continued. I understand that you don't look to have objectors, running the show here, so to speak. But
Understood.
I had put Mr. Surdett on notice in advance, and as well, I'm here tonight. If the board is not going to grant a petition, an agreement rather, to proceed to the July date, we were prepared to proceed tonight with our objection, given that this had already been continued one time.
And it was your client that had submitted the letter?
Yes.
And I mean, this letter, we can read it into the record, is that all right? Or
Sure,
not
that's
yet?
necessary if we're
Right.
not getting to the matter.
Okay.
I wonder if July might be more appropriate, not only because Attorney Lynch isn't available, but potentially to allow these two attorneys along with their clients to see if something can be worked out.
And I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting to. I mean, based on the letter that was submitted as part of the package, clearly there's a conflict in terms of access and ability to sort of work this site. We can certainly get into, the point of having this hearing is to talk to all the reasons why it's difficult. But we want to make sure that all things are considered before you come here.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why I thought having the contractor was, one of the reasons having the builder here was going to be relevant to the board and important, because he will speak to the fact that we do not, after reviewing it, need access to the Potter's property in any way to construct it, what we're proposing, so we will address that.
So, I mean, certainly if we can avoid sort of the objectors' concerns, and make it certainly easier for us as a board to sort of grant the requests, but I'll sort of leave it, we can extend it to the same July 17th meeting, was it? 22nd? I'm sorry. July 17th, sir. July 17th. Wait, are we up? Okay, so come on up. And just state and spell your name, please.
Hi, my name's Lori Cronley. I'm CHRON as in Nancy L-E-Y. I'm in a butter. I live on, I'm at 70 Winchester Drive. So.
And do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I swear to tell the truth.
Excellent.
No fault. So we live, the back of our property is across the street from the Moresco property. And what I wanted to say was we welcome development of that property. It's due for an update, and it's, however, something suitable for the site and in compliance is what we would support. So I hate to say I'm an opposer because I don't.
Well,
I'm into harmony, but I believe that this is an opportunity to correct rather than perpetuate the incursion of that garage being with zero offset and being that out of compliance in the past, because that could also be a precedent in the future. And since they are demolishing the building anyway, it doesn't seem, to be very frank, a hardship to ask them to, for the board to ask the petitioner to update the design to ensure that it is apt for the site, that it is within the constructs of the ordinances that we have in order to, what was I saying? Oh, to keep everything inside the building envelope in observation of the ordinances. And that's something when they go back to redesign, not everything's being addressed here tonight, it's just the zero, as opposed to a few other things I believe our DEM and coastal resources and whatnot.
So typically what we do is we allow them to sort of present first as to what they're going to do, and we bring up sort of concerns and so forth. And then it's a matter of you guys sort of speaking out as to what it is you perhaps don't like about it, and then they have to modify sort of the design and so forth.
But it seems
So-
like in these 2 months, it's a great opportunity. And the other problem is last time I
Absolutely.
was here past my bedtime, and I'm here again, and
I know.
this is on my own time. And I just wanted to take the opportunity, and I'm really grateful that I got to say everything I just said, and I hope that it's considered by the board during your deliberations in future.
We really will. And so the only thing I would suggest is if you want to submit this in writing, feel free. You can email and it can even be on whoever you wrote it just now, just sort of send it to the building official.
Can I just hand over my little scribbles?
You can even hand it to us right now, and then we'll make copies and distribute it to all the interested parties.
Just put your name
And
and
you've also
and
got-
address on it, please.
Okay, and you've also got the minutes of tonight, so that
Yeah,
should
yeah,
serve as-
and then I think whatever they sort of come up with, it will be, between these two parties, will certainly be presented. And do you wanted to speak on Mr. Surratt?
If you provide me with your name and contact information tonight, I'll be happy to reach out and have a dialogue with you.
Okay, if that's appropriate.
Absolutely. So, like I said, we'd like to make sure there's as much input from those abutters before they come here. So then you guys can support sort of, or continue to sort of oppose, but it'll give you a chance to talk about it outside of this forum.
Well, personally, I think of it for the whole community. Like if South Kingstown were everybody up against their property line, it just starts a domino
Oh,
effect,
sure.
right?
Oh, no.
So if you folks allow one to go, then the rest fall in line. And especially, they're tearing the building down anyway. It's not like the prior petitioner where they're just updating the siding on the one side. They're not demolishing and restructuring anything. And,
No, we're not intending on changing the town to like zero clearance.
and I don't want
That
to be in
would bad.
opposition to these folks. The Marascos
bad.
are welcome. What they're doing is a
Sure.
beautiful upgrade, and for the purposes of that have been the intentions that are stated here, and coming to convalesce and whatnot are fully. I have compassion for that, and I support that. Just
So share your email with the attorney, and then hopefully you guys can work it out. All right. You guys want to add anything else? You okay?
thank you.
You all right?
Yeah,
Okay. Any other questions, board members, of any? Yes. Mr. Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Surratt, when did you learn that your key witness would not be available?
Today.
When?
Oh, I don't recall the exact time, maybe in the afternoon.
Your
we were
request
going
for
over it.
continuance came in after 4 o'clock. That's a little bit late for consideration by the board, for consideration by people that might have showed up to either support or oppose the request for continuation.
I apologize, Mr. Daniels. I certainly tried to get it out and speak to the board as soon as possible. I wanted to reach out and send it in advance rather than just show up and make that request. So I understand the board's consideration. We were very much prepared to go forward last time, but we were 8th on your agenda, and we didn't feel it was appropriate, and with some recommendations from your staff, to try to even ask the board to go that late and hear that many agenda items. So that was the reason for our request the first time. I would prefer to address these issues and go forth as soon as possible. I understand Mr. Lynch's concern, and I think I'm happy to make that I'm willing to make that accommodation for him. I try to communicate as openly as much as possible with all the parties.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns by board members? No? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so the request was for July 17th to continue the matter of James and Joan Marasco till July 17th, 2024. I'll make that motion. Can I get a second? Second. Mr. Gorman, comments?
Was that July 17th? Okay.
Did I say that right? No? Yes? Okay. July 17th. And a second by Mr. Rosen. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Rosen?
Aye.
Mr. Elia? Aye. Mr. Daniels? Ms. Hicks? Mr. Cagnetta, aye. Motion passes. We'll see you guys in a couple of months. Good luck. We have minutes from March 20th, 2024. Any changes to the minutes? April 24th? Oh, I got the wrong one. April 24th? Okay, everybody okay with that? Any changes? Everybody going to be here on the 26th of June? Any no? Okay. And you guys is this something new that you gave us, or just me?
No, everyone
us.
got those. Those are just the amendments to the zoning ordinance. You just basically follow that little front page and pull out and put in the new pages.
Okay.
And we also may want to discuss August.
I asked Jess to remind me next month, but it probably makes sense to do it now. I have a conflict, and in fact, the rest of my office has a conflict on August 21st due to vacations. I'm wondering if the board might be available on August 28th instead. That's the fourth Wednesday instead of the third Wednesday.
I probably will not be available.
It actually might be better for me. I have a child going to college on the 20th, so I think that's a Tuesday, right? So yeah, that would be better for me, but.
Great, thanks. I would appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, anything else to go over? Everybody okay? Excellent. Well, that was a nice quick one, 8 o'clock. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Good evening.